Your phone buzzes at 11:47 at night. You almost don't look. You're tired. You're comfortable. You just got paid 3 days ago, and the number in your account still has 3 digits before the decimal point, which, if you're honest, felt like a small victory. Then you look. It's not a text from a friend. It's a notification from your bank. A single sentence. A single number. A payment you forgot was scheduled. Colliding with a car repair you didn't see coming. Colliding with a balance that was never as big as you thought it was. In 4 seconds, you go from feeling safe to feeling like the floor just opened underneath you. And here's the part that should actually terrify you. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't gamble. You didn't overspend on something reckless. You just lived your normal life, and your normal life was standing exactly on a line you didn't know existed. Pause for a second. Let's look at a cold, hard fact. You feel like you are the only one struggling with this sudden panic, but you are the majority. According to the Federal Reserve's latest data, 37% of Americans cannot cover a sudden, minor $400 emergency expense using cash or its equivalent. And if that emergency jumps to $1,000, research from Bankrate shows that 56% of the country doesn't have the savings to handle it. They are forced to borrow, swipe a credit card, or ask family for help. This means nearly 2/3 of the people you pass on the street every single day are living in a state of quiet, unrecognized fragility. There is a line. Nobody drew it for you in school. Nobody put it on a whiteboard and said, "This is where your life sits right now, and this is what determines everything that happens to you next." But it's there. It's underneath every decision you make. And most people are standing right on top of it without realizing how close they are to falling. Below the line is what we're going to call the pit. It's red. It's not a punishment. It's a physics problem. Once you're in it, gravity works against you. Every dollar you make gets pulled backward before you even touch it. Above the line is the sky. It's green. Up there, gravity starts working for you instead of against you. Money doesn't just sit still. It moves. It multiplies. It buys you time instead of stealing it. And the terrifying, beautiful truth is this. Almost nobody is born on one side or the other. You move. Every single choice, every single month, drags you a little closer to the pit or a little closer to the sky. Here's the question that should be running through your head right now, and it's the only question that actually matters. Which side of that line are you on tonight, this exact second? And do you actually know the answer, or have you just been assuming? Part 1. The comfort trap. Most people have never once done the math. They've never sat down and asked, if my income vanished tomorrow, how many days of real life could I buy with what I have sitting in the bank right now? Not what they think they have. What's actually there? To understand how this happens, we have to look at a real-life case study. Let's talk about Sarah. Sarah is 29. She works as a marketing specialist and makes a very decent $75,000 a year. She pays her rent on time. She drives a reliable Honda Civic. On Fridays, she goes out for sushi with her friends without flinching at the bill. By every visible measure, Sarah is doing great. Her neighbors would call her successful. Her parents are proud of her. Now look at Sarah's bank account on the 30th day of the month. The balance is exactly zero, not negative. She isn't in debt yet, just zero. Every dollar that came in already had a job. Rent had a job. Groceries had a job. Her car payment had a job. And then there are the silent leaks. Studies show the average consumer now spends $219 a month on subscription services, even though, when asked, they estimate they only spend $86. For Sarah, that massive 2.5 times perception gap, filled with gym memberships she rarely uses and streaming apps she forgot to cancel, is silently draining her tank in the background. By the time her month ends, there's nothing left over, but there's also nothing missing. It feels like balance. It feels dangerously like safety. Here's the shocking math nobody tells Sarah. Zero at the end of the month doesn't mean stable. It means suspended. she is not standing on solid ground. She is standing exactly on the line, held up by nothing but the assumption that nothing bad will happen this month or next month or the month after that. Every single dollar of her income is already spoken for before it even lands. There is no slack in the system. There is no margin for the world to be unpredictable, and the world is always unpredictable. And then, on a random Tuesday, her car transmission goes. It's not a moral failure. It's not laziness. It's a $2,400 repair landing on a life engineered to have exactly $0 of slack. There was no float. There was no cushion. There was nothing between Sarah and the pit except the hope that her car would keep running forever, that her roof wouldn't leak this year, that she wouldn't get sick. The moment that repair bill lands, gravity does what gravity does. It pulls. Because she doesn't have the cash, Sarah is forced to swipe her credit card. Suddenly, she isn't just paying $2,400 for a car repair. She is financing it at 22% APR, which is the current national average for credit cards carrying a balance. That interest fee is the exact mechanism that drags her from the line and pulls her deep into the red. A single, unpredictable Tuesday just rewrote the next 2 years of her financial life. This is the trap of comfort. Comfort isn't the same thing as safety. Comfort is just the feeling you get right before you find out how unsafe you actually were. And the cruelest part is that Sarah will probably blame herself. She'll call it bad luck or bad timing, never realizing she was never standing on solid ground to begin with. She was balancing on a line, and lines don't hold you up. They just mark the spot where you're about to fall. Think about your own last 30 days. Think about the exact number sitting in your account right now. If a single unexpected bill landed on you tonight, the same size as Sarah's transmission repair, would it be a minor inconvenience? Or would it be the beginning of a fall you'd spend years climbing back out of? Most people don't know the answer until the bill has already arrived. There's a second, quieter danger hiding inside this stage. It's the way comfort convinces your brain to stop paying attention. When the number at the end of the month is 0 instead of negative, your mind files the situation under handled. It stops flagging risk. It stops asking questions. And a mind that stopped asking questions is exactly the kind of mind that gets blindsided, because it was never watching the ground it was standing on in the first place. Part 2. The psychology of the pit. Now let's go somewhere darker. Let's go below the line, into the pit itself, and meet the person who's been sinking for a while. This person isn't reckless either. That's the uncomfortable part. Nobody thinks of themselves as the person drowning in debt. They think of themselves as someone who's just a little behind, who will catch up next month, who deserved that purchase because they've been working so hard and needed something to look forward to. But the math doesn't care what they deserve. Their expenses are quietly, steadily bigger than their income. Not because of one big mistake, but because of a dozen small ones. A credit card here, a buy now, pay later plan there, a subscription they forgot they were paying for, small enough individually to justify, large enough together to become a weight that follows them everywhere. Here's the psychological trap almost nobody talks about. It's not really debt. It's borrowed time. Every swipe of that card is buying something today, using hours of work you haven't done yet. You're not spending money. You're spending your own future, in advance, without asking permission from your future self. The version of you 3 months from now is going to work an entire evening just to pay for a dinner the current version of you barely remembers. And there's a moment, a specific, quiet moment, when the entire purpose of this person's financial life flips. It used to be, how do I get money to buy the things I want? Now it becomes, how do I get money to pay off the ghosts of things I already bought? They're not shopping anymore. They're haunted. Every paycheck arrives pre-assigned to a purchase that's already been made and mostly forgotten. That shift is the real danger of sinking below the line. It's not the interest rate, although the interest rate is brutal. It's not even the total balance, although the total balance is the thing that keeps them up at night. It's the way your brain quietly redefines the entire purpose of earning money. from building a life to servicing a debt. And the longer that goes on, the harder it becomes to imagine anything else. The pit doesn't just take your money, it starts to take your imagination. But here is something almost nobody realizes. The deeper someone sinks into this hole, the more their brain actively works to protect them from the truth. Behavioral economists call this the ostrich effect. It is a cognitive bias where we literally avoid looking at negative financial information, like investors who stop checking their portfolios during a market crash, because our brains attempt to protect us by rejecting the bad news entirely. In fact, neurobiological studies show that confronting monetary loss or seeing a heavily depleted balance triggers sharp activation in the anterior insula, the exact same region of the brain that processes physical pain and disgust. Your brain reacts to those negative numbers as if it is protecting you from an actual physical injury. So they stop opening the banking app. They stop checking the total. Not because they don't care, but because looking has started to feel like touching an open wound. That avoidance feels like relief in the moment, but it is actually the exact mechanism that lets the balance keep growing in silence, unwatched, while interest quietly compounds against them in the dark. And here's the counterintuitive part almost nobody expects. The way out of the pit doesn't start with more income. Plenty of people earn more and still sink faster, because the pit doesn't care how much water is pouring in if there's a bigger hole letting it pour back out. The way out starts with a single brutal act most people spend months avoiding: opening the statement, adding up every number, and finally seeing the real depth of where they're standing. Part 3. Re-engineering Sarah's Tuesday. But how do you actually turn the story around? How does a person climb from wherever they are right now, whether that's deep in the red or hovering nervously on the line, all the way up into that kind of freedom? Let's look at what Sarah should have done. If we could go back in time, how could she have rewritten her reality before that Tuesday transmission repair hit her life? The architecture of her escape wouldn't have required a corporate promotion or a lottery ticket. It would have required a specific sequence of choices, a battle plan tailored to her everyday life. Step 1. The cold freeze. Before trying to aggressively pay off her credit card or build a grand future, Sarah had to stop the silent bleeding. She had to sit down at her kitchen table, open her accounts, look at that $219 a month leaking into forgotten subscriptions, and cut them off. She had to freeze her lifestyle exactly where it was. This step wasn't about paying off every single debt instantly. That's not realistic. It was about stopping new damage from happening, establishing a boundary, and declaring that the bleeding stops today. Step 2. The $1,000 shield. This is the part that surprises people the most. Conventional financial advice would have told Sarah to throw every single spare cent at her small debts immediately. But that is a dangerous trap. If Sarah had put all her extra money toward past bills, leaving her savings account at zero, the day her car broke down would have still been an absolute catastrophe. She would have had to borrow again. A small emergency buffer, built before the big debt payoff begins, is what keeps a single bad day from undoing months of progress. It is a small, psychological wall designed to absorb the impact of a bad day, ensuring a flat tire or a broken appliance doesn't throw you right back into the hands of credit card companies. Step 3. Choosing her weapon. With her shield in place, Sarah could finally choose her weapon to destroy the remaining debt. She had to commit to either the avalanche or the snowball method. If she chose the avalanche, she would mathematically target her highest interest debt first, which is mathematically optimal and saves the most money over time. If she chose the snowball, she would focus on paying off her smallest balances first, collecting fast, visual psychological victories that prove to her brain that she is actually winning. The math nerds will tell you to use the first. The psychologists will tell you to use the second. The truth is, the best method for Sarah is whichever one keeps her moving forward instead of freezing. Step 4. The time pricing rule. This represents a permanent shift in how Sarah had to see every single price tag. She had to stop looking at items in terms of paper dollars and start looking at them in terms of hours. When eyeing a beautiful $150 jacket, She could no longer just ask, "Do I have $150 in my account?" She had to ask herself, "Is this jacket worth 8 hours of my actual labor at my desk?" When you look at the world through the lens of hours traded rather than paper spent, the line starts to change shape. The pit starts looking less like bad luck and more like a series of trades you can simply choose not to make anymore. None of these steps require you to earn more money first. That's the trap so many people fall into, waiting for a raise, waiting for a better job, waiting for some future version of their income before they start. But the line doesn't care what you earn. It cares what you do with what's already arriving. Part 4. The Climb and the Armor. If Sarah had followed that sequence, something strange would have happened. But here's where the story turns, because the same gravity that drags people down can be reversed. It's not magic. It's not a secret formula only rich people know. It's a direction change, and it starts small. Let's meet the person climbing, slowly, painfully, above the line for the first time. This isn't a montage of overnight success. This is someone learning to say no to things they actually want. It's the awkward moment of declining an invitation because they can't justify the spend, and having to explain that to friends who don't understand why. It's cooking at home instead of ordering out, not because it's fun, but because it's the only lever they can pull right now, today, with the income they currently have. This is the part nobody glamorizes, because it's not glamorous. Saving money, especially the first few $100s of it, is mostly friction. It's mostly discomfort. It's mostly your brain screaming that you're missing out while your bank account quietly, slowly, starts to disagree with that voice for the first time in years. And then something strange happens. The first $100 saved does nothing. The second 100 does nothing. But somewhere around the point where there's real money sitting there, untouched, something shifts. That money starts pulling its own weight. It starts generating a small amount more, on its own, without you doing anything, without you clocking in, without you trading another hour of your life for it. This is the moment the line stops being a wall and starts being a launch pad. Small amounts of saved money begin working a job you never had to apply for. It's slow. It's almost invisible at first, a few extra dollars you'd barely notice. But it's the exact opposite of the ghost money mechanism from the pit. Instead of your past spending haunting your future income, your past discipline is quietly feeding your future freedom. Most people quit right here, right at the boring part, right when the growth is too small to feel exciting yet, when the temptation to spend the progress away is at its strongest. There's always a reason presenting itself. A trip, a gadget, a treat that feels earned after weeks of saying no. Every single one of those moments is a fork in the road, and most people never notice they're standing at one. The ones who keep going describe something strange happening around this point. The discomfort doesn't disappear, but it changes shape. Saying no stops feeling like deprivation and starts feeling like protection, like they're guarding something that finally belongs to them instead of giving something up. That shift in feeling is not an accident. It's the moment the climb stops being purely willpower and starts being identity. Which is exactly why the next stage matters so much, because it's the stage that makes quitting almost impossible. This is the 6-month armor. Imagine building a reserve so large that 6 full months of your life, your rent, your food, your bills, everything, could be paid for even if your income disappeared completely tomorrow. It sounds excessive. It sounds like overkill. If your actual monthly survival cost is $3,000, this means you have $18,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account. It isn't there to make you rich. It's there to keep you safe. Let's replay Sarah's story, but this time, she has built her armor. The transmission dies on her Civic. The repair bill is identical, $2,400. But look at her reaction. There is no panic. There is no call to a credit card company. There is no sleepless night spent wondering how she is going to buy groceries next week. It is not a crisis anymore. It's not even a scare. It's just a Tuesday. She pays for the repair directly from the reserve. She replaces what she used over the following months, calmly, without panic. life continues, completely undisturbed, while somewhere else in the world, someone with the exact same income and the exact same emergency just got pulled straight down into the pit and will spend the next year climbing back out. Same event, same dollar amount, two completely different outcomes. That's not luck, that's architecture. That's the difference between standing on the line, praying nothing goes wrong, and standing 3 feet above it with a floor underneath you that gravity simply cannot touch. Notice what actually changed between those two people. It wasn't the emergency. Emergencies are constant. They're the one guaranteed feature of every single life, rich or poor, careful or careless. What changed was the 6 months of preparation nobody saw happening in the background. Month after month of unremarkable, unglamorous saving that never once made for an exciting story, right up until the night it quietly saved someone's entire financial future. Part 5. The Sovereign Escape. Once that armor is built, something even bigger becomes possible. This is the final stage. This is the sovereign escape. Picture your investments quietly generating enough cash, on their own, month after month, to cover the actual cost of your life. Not someday, not in some fantasy retirement decades away that may or may not arrive. A working, functioning stream of money that shows up whether you go to work or not, whether you feel like getting out of bed or not. This is the point where your job stops being the thing keeping you alive and starts being something you're doing because you want to. That distinction sounds small. It is not small. It is the entire difference between a hostage situation and a choice. One version of you wakes up because the mortgage demands it. The other version wakes up because there's somewhere they actually want to be. We are taught by a massive, multi-billion-dollar marketing machine that the goal of money is to buy things. The system needs you to believe that. The credit card companies, the lifestyle brands, the algorithms, they all want you standing exactly on that zero balance line because a person on the line is a reliable, lifetime subscriber to their system. But the real goal of money isn't luxury. The real goal of money is autonomy. It is the sheer, quiet power of being able to say no to a toxic boss, a bad contract, or a desperate situation, simply because you have the leverage of time. That is not just financial health. That is sovereignty. Someone standing here doesn't check their bank account with dread. They don't calculate how many days until payday. They've achieved complete separation from the gravity that drags everyone else back down into the pit, over and over, one emergency at a time. Think back to Sarah, standing on the line with a zero balance, one repair bill away from disaster. Now stand this final version of the story right next to her. The same species of emergency could happen to either one. A job loss, a sudden repair. But one person feels the ground shake under every headline about the economy, and the other barely notices. Because their floor was never built on a single paycheck to begin with. It was built on a system that keeps working whether they show up or not. Part 6. Circular ending. This is what almost nobody tells you when they talk about being rich. It was never really about the size of the number. It was always about the distance between you and the line, and whether gravity is currently your enemy or your employee. The line is there. You are standing on it right now. And to see what stepping off that line actually looks like, we have to look at one final image. Imagine it is 11:47 at night, months or years into the future. You're tired. You're comfortable. You are lying in bed, just about to drift off to sleep. Suddenly, your phone buzzes. In the old days, that sound would have sent a sharp spike of adrenaline through your chest. Your mind would have immediately raced to a forgotten bill, an unexpected emergency expense, or a financial floor about to cave in. Your hands would have shaken slightly as you reached for the screen. But tonight, you don't flinch. You pick up the phone calmly. You glance at the notification. It's an alert about an automated transfer, or perhaps an unexpected bill that would have ruined your entire month a year ago. You look at the number, you close the app, and you put the phone back down on the nightstand. Your heart rate hasn't changed. Your breathing is slow. The notification didn't bring fear. because the gravity of the pit can no longer reach you. You built the floor. You bought back your time. You put the phone down, and you fall asleep.